What's up, guys? Welcome back to Newswave. So heading into the weekend, absolute chaos broke out in the gaming industry, with Nintendo taking like front headlines when it comes to the Switch 2 pre-orders, but just in general with the tariffs, it seems like pretty much across the board, everyone is going crazy. And we even have a statement from the ESA, a lot happening. We're gonna go over all of that here today. Also, we are going to be talking about the Switch 2 in terms of its performance and what it's been showing at these different hands-on events, as people are leaving absolutely shocked at times, just based on the comparisons between not only the PS4 or the Xbox Series S, but even the PlayStation 5. And then we also have Sony taking interest in the Switch 2 with their own survey that seems to once again hint towards some future plans, maybe for their own portable device. So if you guys enjoy these videos, make sure you hit that like button, helps out a ton. And if new here to the Spawn Wave channel, make sure you subscribe down below. And of course, members for the channel do get Newswave early. If you would like to learn more about that, click the join button or link in the description down below. And we're gonna start today with a Minecraft movie. It actually released into theaters on Thursday or Friday, and it's had a few days there at the box office, which seems like it's done incredibly well. We can see this posted up. This is over on Variety. Says a Minecraft movie shatters box office expectations with record-breaking $157 million opening weekend. In fact, along with the international box office added in, it's just over $301 million. Now, Variety says that it's not only the biggest domestic debut of the year, but the best in history for a video game adaptation. People have been going back and forth with that or the Super Mario Brothers movie. It's close enough, though, to where you look at that and go, wow, that's quite the success. Some people seem confused about this because it was getting beaten down quite a bit. People were kind of laughing at the trailer and stuff, and I'm not here to tell you it's going to go out and win Oscars or anything, but it's as simple as it seems. It's Minecraft. It's an extremely popular brand, and sure, I'm sure a younger audience dragging the parents to the theaters for the most part, but yeah, it's going to garner a lot of interest, and in this case, a ton of revenue, and something tells me, yeah, it's probably going to make more than $1 billion. Go figure, though. Hey, it's Minecraft. Also, coming off of that direct, one of the biggest games that was being talked about was the Duskbloods. This, of course, with From Software at the helm and Nintendo seemingly publishing for them, seemed like, okay, this is going to be a Switch 2 exclusive forever. Well, now there seems to be some interest in maybe it going to the PlayStation 5, at least, or PC. We can see this posted up. This is over on Push Square. It says Bloodborne's Switch 2 spiritual successor could come to PS5 yet. Now, they basically looked into how exactly this thing is being published, with FromSoft owning the IP and self-publishing in Japan. Basically, everywhere else in the world, Nintendo is picking up the publishing duties there. But from what we've seen before with Nintendo, yes, you do have situations like with Square Enix, for example, where Live Alive or you've seen like Bravely Default and stuff, those have made the jump to other platforms later on. This one, though, is interesting in the sense that it could end up like the Bayonetta situation, where Sega owns Bayonetta, but Nintendo does publishing and work with it as well. It's really hard to say currently. I mean, at this point, yes, it's Switch 2 exclusive for the time being. It doesn't even come out to 2026, even if it's like a 1 or 2 year exclusivity. I mean, 2028 maybe by then, and I feel like at that point most FromSoft fans would have looked into it and probably picked up a Switch 2 to play it. So for now, I would look at this as just a Switch 2 exclusive for good, but you never know, we could be surprised. Could end up a timed exclusive maybe on the PlayStation 6 in a few years, we'll see. Oh, and we had just talked about Marathon, how it seemed like things were starting to move a bit in the background, maybe preparing for a big reveal. And in fact, that is what's happening, and it's actually coming up here in a few days. This trailer was released by the Marathon official account, and it saved the date April 12th, 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern time. So we're looking towards that at the end of this week, actually. And it looks like it's going to be the big gameplay reveal. It seemed like we had some in-engine shots here, but you know how in-engine goes. It's hit or miss for how it actually ends up looking. But this is good news, so Bungie can kind of get this thing moving a few years after its initial reveal, and they do a big win along with Sony when it comes to the live service space. Seems like you tap Bungie for that, and Marathon making its big return after decades. It should be at least something to watch and see what happens here with their take on an extraction shooter. And guys, with some of the quick news out of the way, let's get into the bigger stuff. Let's start right away with Nintendo Switch 2 pre-orders in the US being delayed. I mean, almost at like 0 hour. We were close. We were like a week away or so, and they are now put on hold. Originally, that would be April 9th, but this statement was released at first to retailers, then it leaked out, and then it was just issued to the press, which we can see this posted up. This one is taken from GameSpot, for example, from Nintendo saying pre-orders for Nintendo Switch 2 in the US will not start April 9th, 2025. 2025 in order to assess the potential impact of tariffs and evolving market conditions. Nintendo will update timing at a later date. The launch date of June 5th, 2025 is unchanged. Now, since then, there's been a ton of stuff happening around tariffs, different countries trying to make deals with the US and figure out ways to drop some of the, just larger tariffs that have been placed. Like, the big one here that seems to have tripped up Nintendo. Some have speculated, did Nintendo price the Switch 2 or maybe other parts of it, like games or accessories, whatever, because they were expecting tariffs and they tried to take a guess and it came out to more than they thought, as Vietnam, which is one of the main places now as Nintendo tried to diversify where the manufacturing for the Switch 2 was. They went to Vietnam as one of the main places they were going to do manufacturing for, and it gets hit with a 46% tariff, which, yeah, it kind of throws a bit of a wrench into their plans there. Now, of course, Nintendo, being pretty wealthy, have a large war chest, you'd assume could weather the storm here if they really wanted to get it out there at that $450 price point and just kind of eat the tariffs for a bit. It seems like right now, though, Vietnam in particular, this has been reported multiple times now, is actually trying to make a deal so that they can drop like all tariffs and basically eliminate that if possible. So already, as this is all going, a very fluid situation, seems like that is something that might get worked out, and Nintendo is kind of putting things on hold just to see where they stand if those negotiations go through, and they can just give the green light to pre-orders in the US at that current $450 price. The concern right now, though, would be just prices in general going up. But that wouldn't necessarily just include the Switch 2. Now, this is from an ESA spokesperson with IGN, we can see. We really are at this point just watching and trying not to have knee-jerk reactions, because we don't think that what President Trump announced this week is the end of the story. But what was announced this week and the tariffs as outlined, we do expect these tariffs will have a real and detrimental impact on the industry and the hundreds of millions of Americans who love to play games. And so our goal is to work with the administration, to work with other elected officials, try to find a solution that doesn't damage US industries, US business, but also American gamers and families. They go on to talk about how even if it's just not games that go up, but like everything else around you kind of just gets more expensive, well, games, just the entertainment in general, will start to be cut back, and that could also hurt the gaming industry. Or hey, you just start turning to the free-to-play games, and that, already large piece of the pie continues to grow. So this is something that definitely to be keeping an eye on here. Just in general, like for everyday life if you're in the US, obviously, but with gaming in mind here on the channel, it's kind of what I'm paying attention to. And it keeps shifting and moving. It's like every other hour there's some sort of update. Sony put out a statement that's like, hey, we're keeping an eye on this too. And at least to Sony's credit, because the PS5 has been out for so long, it seems like they've been working to plan around. Like, they weren't looking to take pre-orders for a system that's coming out in 2 months and start that up this week. Obviously, they've been shipping out PS5s for a while, so it seems like they were stockpiling in the US for quite some time. So Daniel Ahmed did a very good post about this and went into the idea of them having what you can refer to as a buffer of PlayStation 5 systems in the US. But if the tariffs persist and they run through all those, then yeah, they'd probably have to reevaluate how much they're charging for PlayStation 5 systems in the US. So whether $450 or $500 now, you might end up like 30% more than that. Who knows what that PS5 Pro is going to look like? And then you also get into the GPU market, and just consumer goods in general would be crazy. So again, this is a very fluid situation right now. Things are constantly evolving and changing. So I'll keep you guys up to date, especially around the Switch 2 pre-orders. And if Nintendo, everything can get all worked out and they can have those go live, not April 9th, but maybe a week or two later. June 5th has not changed as the launch date, which tells me that one way or the other, they're going to take pre-orders. And hopefully it's at that $450 price tag. Next up, let's talk about the Switch 2 when it comes to its performance and some of the comparisons it's drawing right now out of these hands-on events, as we are seeing just direct feed like capture of some of these games. So of course, people are doing graphical comparisons. It is difficult to do graphical comparisons when you're pulling videos from YouTube specifically, as you want as lossless as possible for both video feeds. But if you look at them side by side, you can get a rough idea. So what I'm saying is, when the Switch 2 comes out, or around the time of that, maybe a little before, and Digital Foundry, as an example, gets their hands on it, they should have the best interpretation for the most part as to what's going on here. But we are now in the realm of the Switch 2 not being compared to the PS4, not being compared to the Xbox Series S. We are straight up to Switch 2 versus PS5 in some of these games, which is I'm not expecting the Switch 2 to match up really well with the really well with the PS5. It is in that realm of almost good enough in some cases. So the big one people are pointing to right now is Street Fighter 6. And like you can see this example here, again, comparison videos, I'll leave them down below in the sources if you want to check them out for yourself, as there's a lot of work that went into these and it goes on for quite a while actually with comparison shots all over the place. But just from some of the ones you're seeing here, the frame rate for the Switch 2 is 60. Along with the other consoles there, of course, they're comparing to. So you don't really have a frame rate disadvantage like we've seen with the current Switch where, okay, we're just having the frame rate and that's just how it is. That all seems straightforward there. But then also, the visual comparisons, it is a jump above the PS4. This would be in docked mode, which you would expect at that point. But also at times, the PS5, it's actually right there. And this really comes down to what Mark Cerny has already mentioned with the PS5 Pro, and that is a lot of areas of interest right now are shifting over to just AI upscaling. And we know with NVIDIA has put out a post around the Switch 2, and they have mentioned that it does have access to DLSS, it has ray tracing. There's a lot happening here when it comes to some of the tricks behind the scenes to make this work and get this sort of, image quality. It is quite impressive to see what something like Street Fighter 6 is doing, but also Cyberpunk 2077 is also kind of impressive as well. Now, this is the Ultimate Edition, which is very important to note, so it has Phantom Liberty. It's coming at a price of $70. If you look on places like Steam, it's $80-something for this game, and I know you can go off of Steam and find like really cheap keys and stuff, but at that point, hey, you can also go to GameFly and rent Cyberpunk 2077 on the Switch since, physical copies exist, so you don't have to technically spend that much on it there. But Cyberpunk actually measures up pretty well too. The frame rate on the Switch 2 is 30 or 40, depending on quality or performance mode. 40, of course, divides evenly into the 120, so if you have, with the handheld mode, there's 120 frames, or I guess on a nice TV, you could do the 120 hertz mode. But when it comes to the visual clarity, also right there with the PS5, I saw some comparisons to the PS5 Pro. I was like, that might be pushing it a little bit here, guys, because of course, when you're dealing with PS5, PS5 Pro, and even PS4 Pro, you're seeing 60 FPS. But the fact that it is in the conversation with these systems is quite impressive on its own. And I think a lot of this comes back to what NVIDIA has been able to create here, a low-power chip that is giving performance that's on par or even better at times than the Xbox Series S in general. So we are to a position now in 2025 where lower power chips have reached that threshold. It's not even a great comparison at times with the PS4 Pro because it's using a mechanical hard drive, so the Switch 2 just has faster load times, of course. But the fact that we are here now does make me wonder about some of the other future handhelds. Like, what will AMD come up with their next generation Z chip series that we're expecting? Even like with Steam Deck and Valve, they've been waiting for that next generation leap. And what will that yield? What would Sony do in 3 or 4 years with a handheld? So the fact that we're here now is quite impressive. And I'm pretty excited for not only the future in general of these lower power chips, but also these are like the first games on the Switch 2 before developers have more time and the ability to really learn the ins and outs of the system and what they can get away with and what they should focus on. So this seems like something that will just get better over time, especially when you look to Nintendo's first-party studios. So exciting stuff here just to see what we start with now, of course, and where we end up towards the end of this generation that could be 7 or 8 years from now. Next up, let's actually stick with Sony and Nintendo here, as, of course, Sony wants to know all about the Switch 2 from a consumer's perspective, because we all kind of figure they're working on their own handheld device, and I'm curious if they're working on a handheld device in the sense of it being a hybrid model similar to the Switch 2, or if they are just going the route of kind of what these PC gaming handhelds are, which is out of the box, it's a handheld. Maybe you can buy an extra like dongle or dock or something to connect it to the TV, but that's not one of its main like features. It's mostly a handheld device, but Sony is asking a lot of questions around what people think about the Switch 2. This was shared by Extus and posted up here, we can see. Over on MP First, many questions. One, as you may already know, Nintendo announced the Switch 2, the successor to the Nintendo Switch. It's releasing on June 5th, 2025. How interested are you in purchasing the Switch 2? When thinking about Nintendo Direct Switch 2 announcements, in what way was your opinion changed, if at all, about the following? So they go through a bunch of different things when it comes to games or peripherals, features, Question 3 was, what aspects of the Switch 2 console are most interested in? And look, they mentioned docked mode, up to 4K, support for HDR via a variable refresh rate, frame rates up to 120 FPS, the Joy-Con 2 controller features, game chat. There's a lot here. Of course, when it comes to their market research, it's just interesting to see some of the stuff that they're naming here. One question even mentions the Switch 2 pre-order approach, so priority registration being given to registrants who have purchased a Nintendo Switch Online membership with a minimum of 12 months of paid membership and a minimum 50 total game hours as of March 2nd, 2024, which of course is a way for Nintendo to try to mitigate the scalper situation, which I did a video on Sunday for that. And they're already popping up online, which the listings look sketchy, but some of them are selling for like double the current price of the Switch 2, the $450 and $500. So I do get the idea of them trying to work out, how do we actually get these systems to people who are going to play them? Because let's say you're Sony building this new PS6, just as an example, you're probably going to break even or lose money on it, especially depending on the region that it's going to. You want to make sure it gets to a person who will then spend money with you on games or services, subscriptions, whereas with a scalper, it might sit in their garage for a month or two while they're trying to find someone to sell it to. So that makes a lot of sense as well. It's just interesting to see Sony kind of sniffing around there when it comes to the Switch 2 announcement. I think we're still 2 or 3 years off from Sony's attempt at a new handheld to launch alongside of the PlayStation 6, but it's interesting to see this, and it's again, exciting for the lowered power chip market, especially if we have Sony enter as a competitor, Microsoft. Things could get really fun really fast when it comes to the different ports, but also the technological advancements that we see. And in our last bit of news, let's talk about the ongoing saga of the Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion remake, because people are kind of thinking it was going to release like the first week of April. Didn't happen, obviously. I'm not playing it right now. So people are wondering, okay, what's going on here? Well, the original leaker showed up again and gave some sort of explanation, which you can see was covered here by Insider Gaming, where they say the insider made the original claim has owned an initial timeline slip, claiming that multiple sources have now corroborated a release window starting the week of April 21st. It has been claimed that the Oblivion remake will be released after the ESO, Elder Scrolls Online, anniversary event ends. The insiders claim they're highly confident about this claim. Now, from what I've seen, that event, let me know if you're a big Elder Scrolls Online player. I'm sure you could comment on this a bit better down below in the comment section. But that ends April 22nd. So, okay, the week of April 21st, I guess that's a way for them to cap off Elder Scrolls Online with Oblivion remake, sure. And there's been some talk about this thing just being shadow dropped. I guess in this instance, it would be dropped right between Indiana Jones and Forza Horizon 5, those both on the PS5, and this, I guess, would just be a multi-platform release for PS5 and Xbox and PC. But, I mean, I'm excited to see this because Oblivion, it was awesome when it came out. It needs help. It's still a great game in terms of, like, the skeleton of it. It just needs a lot of work on top of that currently. So again, I think it could be really cool, especially if it has kind of that treatment of, like, Ninja Gaiden 2 Black did, where it's kind of overlaid the original game, but it's an Unreal Engine 5. That's sort of what I'm expecting with this one. So it's just, once again, Microsoft releasing a lot of content this year, so much so that they're trying to thread the needle with Elder Scrolls or Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion remake between a couple of PS5 releases, and then ahead of like Doom and who knows what else they have planned going forward through the summer and then towards the holiday season. So exciting stuff. We'll keep an eye on this one, see if anything else breaks, but seems like people right now are pretty confident this thing, we're at least going to see Oblivion remake in the next few weeks, so we'll keep an eye out. And before we go to the comment of the day, we'll take a look at the poll that I posted up yesterday, where I ask, are you planning to see the Minecraft movie? Okay, well, 69%, which everyone says, no, I'm not interested. 16% say yes, going to see it in theaters. 15% say yes later on streaming / Blu-ray. I mean, if it's on streaming, I feel like there's many people, if you're just kind of scrolling through whatever service it's on, you just see it, you're like, okay, I'll play it for a little bit and see what happens here. So I can see many people who are maybe saying not interested, we'll see, just see. But going into the theater, of course, a bit more of a commitment there when it comes to the price, the time and stuff. And I mean, it's doing really well currently. Not shocking, but also not shocking after seeing the discussion online around this. It's viewed as like a really bad movie. And then I saw the the reviews come out, and some of the taglines were, hey, better than we thought. I don't know if that's like something you put on the Blu-ray case where they have all the things that the critics say, quote unquote, better than we thought. maybe it's like a fun thing to put on there as a joke, but basically the audience seems to like it based on the audience scores. Critics are like, well, I'm not putting it in as an Oscar nominee. That's fine. It's just a way for Minecraft fans to kind of have fun for a couple of hours with a movie that I'm sure has a ton of reference that only they really get. Still though, if you like Minecraft, seems like something you get a kick out of for, 90 minutes to 2 hours. And we'll finish up with the comment of the day as you're seeing here. This is from Wolf, who says, John forgot to mention that Nintendo stock rose up after the Switch 2 Direct, and then dropped, and is still dropping, after the price revelations. I'm so glad investors are showing their feelings here. Okay, so, that actually really doesn't have much to do about the pricing, the price revelations around the Switch 2. I'm sure that's been framed in some places like that. No. The entire stock market is like on fire. On Friday, yes, as you saw there, Thursday. The timing for Nintendo wasn't great where the tariff announcements happened, and the stock market is just exploding right now. And it's not going to be great today either. So I would kind of just not even pay attention. If you're trying to analyze it for something like this, I would just kind of throw everything that's happening in the stock market out the window right now, because it really doesn't have anything to do with, in this case right now, how any one company is pricing their products. It might not even have to do with earnings right now. It's literally just, okay, what are the effects on the tariffs? Where do these companies get their things? Look at Nike. Nike, I believe they do a lot of manufacturing out of Vietnam as well. They got hit with the 46% tariff. Look at the chart. It's just a straight line down. It's just completely dropped. So that's what you're seeing right now. A lot of people just reacting, panicking, selling, and trying to figure out what's next, because honestly, no one seems to know, not only day to day, but like hour by hour. And ladies and gentlemen, that's gonna do it here for Newswave. If you enjoyed this video, guys, hit that like button. If not, hit the dislike. Leave comments down below about everything we talked about here today. If you missed last week's Newswave, I'll leave it up here in a card, or maybe you'll hear more about something I think could be a big game changer for the Switch 2. And yes, it's partially because I'm also a big GameCube fan, but I'll leave that video right below it. Thanks guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.